Missouri. So good morning, good morning, good morning. So we
Good
are
morning.
going now to get started with our first presentation of the day. It's 9:02 and I am going to get started right away because it's a very packed day. This is the buzz theme of the last couple of years, and we have been trying to get a handle of how to change the narrative about using AI tools, going against the wave of AI will replace us all. Well, let's hope not. But what do we do to one, ally with the enemy, two, make the enemy our actually best friend, to show that without us, there is a lot that is going to be lost in translation. And so, without further ado, I am going to start sharing my. Before I start sharing my screen, actually, can we go with a poll? I would like to hear from you if you already use AI tools. Now, remember, we are going to have two sessions back to back today, and I am honored and privileged to share the floor with Caroline Menendez. This first workshop will be primarily focused on interpreting. The second workshop will be primarily focused on translation. However, Caroline and I will talk often referring to similar or same tools, and we have tried to maximize the time that we spend with you, giving you different perspectives. But remember that these are also transferable skills, which means that once you start playing and manage the tasks and what to do with these tools, you can apply them to both translation and interpreting to a specific extent. This said, how many are we in the house? 26. We still have many that are supposed to be joining. But let's get started and then we will be rerunning it halfway through. Can we launch the poll? And I would like you to look at the poll and see, tell me if you are using any of these tools at the moment, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Copilot, Claude, something else, or none. And then if you use them for work, meaning related to interpreting, and the answer will be no, yes, I don't use AI tools at all. I use AI tools for something else, but I have not applied it to interpreting work. So go ahead, please take a second and fill up answer the poll for me. And Alex, you can tell us when it's a good time to call.
Okay, we're almost at total answers,
Okay.
and I'm gonna end the poll.
So majority is using ChatGPT. Some have been exposed to Perplexity and to Claude. Very good. Others tools are also being used, and Gemini and Copilot follow after ChatGPT. There is a good chunk of 35% that does not use any AI tools, and there is no shame in it. Absolutely no shame. That's why we are here together. And almost 60% says that we have not used AI tools applied to interpreting. Some have done it. And everybody in this venue at the moment, as of now, 9:07, uses some types of AI tools, and 30% uses it related to interpreting tasks. Perfect. So we hope to give a lot of ideas to those that have not ventured in using AI tools for interpreting or translation. And for those that have, it will be either a good reaffirmation or hopefully new tricks. So without further ado, I am going to connect with my presentation and get us started. Welcome. Welcome to Keeping the Human in Interpreting AI Tools for Preparation, Interpretation, and Evaluation. This is an adaptation of the AST pre-conference workshop that Catherine Allen and I have presented at the American Translators Association conference a few weeks back. So, although Catherine is not in the room, but I would like to acknowledge that her and I had prepared this. And what I've done is to make it applicable to our field of education. Please know that everything that is going to be shared today can be applied. You can take notes, etc. Now, I would like to have by a quick answer in the chat who is in the room. Translators, interpreters, both. If you can quickly put it in the chat, that would be great.
There's a lot of people that are saying both interpreters and translators.
Perfect. Any administrators in the room? Any trainers in the room?
We have state system support for interpreters in early intervention. Sorry, a trainer, and some people saying I am when you asked about the different
Perfect.
categories.
Perfect. Perfect. So welcome everybody. This is what we're going to try to cover in the next hour and a half. We're going to have a look at what captioning is and why we're going to talk about captioning for interpreting, what kind of AI tools we can use to prepare, and I would say to prepare ourselves for our areas of specialization, how to use AI tools for practicing and also for self-evaluation. And hopefully we will have a little bit of time for question and answers and to wrap up. If you have any burning question, please, please, please make sure that you put them in the chat and Alex will help me read something that is really burning and I will try to address it. I will tell you that I will address it later if that is something that is going to be explained later. Let's start with captioning. Now, captioning is something that we are being exposed more and more and more since platforms like Zoom have become really daily tools to use. And so I would like to cover what it is and what it is not. And eventually we're going to end up understanding how we can use this system or this technique for our purposes of interpreters. Captioning is not a new technique, is not a new strategy, but it's actually been around for a long time because being the process of rendering the audio content from either a video or a live event into text and displaying the text on a screen, this technique has been used for a long time for deaf and hard of hearing. And so it often includes information that is needed to understand the content. There are other information such as speaker identification, sound effect, music description are part of the captioning so that the, the, the feeling of what is going on in the world is being given to deaf and hard of hearing participants. Sometimes it is legally required. Now, what is human versus automated captioning? There are actually human beings, professionals trained to manually transcribe. They strive for highly accurate rendering. It is therefore very expensive, and some of the examples go to DVD, Blu-ray, subtitles, professional closed captioning, etc. The automated captioning instead is what we have been exposed to more and more that is generated by AI. Now, what happens? you're going to see a lot of funny stuff, especially when a person like me speaks with an accent. Therefore, there is often um, mistranscription of what people are saying. These captioning tools are either, they are also moving into a sort of generative captioning, which means that the tool is able to, or tries to predict and anticipate what the speaker's next words are going to be. So if you see some captioning where it writes something, but then it changes it and writes something else, is because that automated captioning is generative. It's not only um, faithful to what the speaker is saying at the moment. Once we understand what captioning is, it's important and it's necessary to differentiate from subtitling. The subtitling instead, it helps viewers who can hear but don't understand the spoken language um, what is going on. And so we see subtitles in foreign language movies, for example. And the subtitling has limitation, constraints on the screen. Therefore, does not necessarily reflect everything and anything that is being said. All the accessible features, such as noise representation or um, for example, they are not reproduced because there is an assumption that the viewer is listening and is seeing what is happening on the screen. Generally is optional and it's typically not required by law. Example, you can turn on subtitling on your TV screens, for example, at home. And I usually do it when I can understand what they say on the screen. Now, how do interpreters are leveraging captioning? In the several different ways, and this is not new. Interpreters that have been delving into the world of technology have started really looking into captioning very closely because it helps them increase some of their um, skills. For example, I personally see that it's helpful with numbers, but find it doesn't handle a variety of accents well and causes me to have self-doubt, which is even more distracting. So what does that tell you? Captioning helps me for the numbers because I see them right there, but at the same time, I need to block my brain because my audio connection to what the speaker is saying cannot subdue to what I see on the screen. They say captions, if the captions are accurate and being generated almost instantly, and that's where the difference between generative captioning and um, real captioning related to what the speaker is saying at the moment is important. Personally, the generative captioning distracts me because the way our interpreting brain works is that we also are trying to contextualize and predict what the speaker says. And if the generative captioning does that as well, for me, it's a double track. AI captions have been helpful in the past, but in general increase the cognitive load while interpreting remotely. You need to know how your brain works. You need to know how to leverage from these tools. So remember, we're going to present to you a number of tools and the features associated with these tools. It does not necessarily mean that all of us will use all of them in the same way at the same time. But if you are able to find a tech savvy, interpreting sensitive tool, then some of these features are really, really useful for us. Simon Note is a tool that I recommend everybody to try. There is a free version, and that is extremely helpful in certain scenarios, says these interpreter, especially with the auto glossary lookup and numbering highlighting. And so we're going to talk about Simo Note a little bit farther on. Now, We all have been exposed to the Zoom captioning feature, and this is how it works.
When we access our meeting now, we should see an option for Show Captions. Click on that. When we do, a pop-up will appear allowing us to choose the caption language. The default language is English. Click on Save for now. We should notice the button now says Hide Captions. When we or other participants start talking, we should see white text in a dark background just above the menu. Note that automatic captions are not automatically active by default. We will have to activate it for every meeting that we want to use it in. To save the automatic caption, we will need to open the side panel. Click on the caret to the right of the automatic caption button. Choose View Full Transcript. Then find and click on the Save Transcript button below the full transcript. We can click on the Show in Folder link to open our File Explorer to where the file is located. That's it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at helpdesk@canisius.edu. Thanks.
All right. So why would this be important? Think of you listening to a speech, and now you want to rehearse with that speech. It will give you the ability to look at the test, to apply side translation, to look for vocabulary before even terminology, and trying to prepare. This is extremely useful if I am preparing for different types of speeches, for example, from the superintendent, and the superintendent has spoken very many times. I want to learn his style, I want to learn his pattern, I want to learn what he's talking about, and transcribing publicly released speeches will help me prepare to do a better job. Now, let me get through. We talked about Simo Note, and Simo Note is an incredible tool that is actually being developed by interpreters. When you use a tool like Simo Note, you are going to see in real time the transcription of the speech. It is available in several different languages, and it has to be used as a supporting tool rather than the one tool that you rely on. It does catch a high number of details, and therefore it does also bring up to your attention a lot of different nuances that help our cognitive load, our brain functions. Simon Notes offer different types of plans, but there is a free um, version that has features that can help us improve not only while we do the job, and obviously, please, if you want to venture into knowing the tools, try it out before and see how that works out for you. But it does have um, the ability to look in real time what the speaker is saying, helping you formulate out your rendition. Let's see how it works. And for the sake of doing something out of everybody's comfort zone, maybe not everybody, but I do not know if there is that language on the screen in this venue. Let's see how that works.
Eu estou aqui traduzindo, na verdade, estou revisando um texto que já foi traduzido uns 30 dias atrás, agora chegou a revisão na minha mão, e é sobre ensaios clínicos, todos os procedimentos, e fala um pouco do sistema para organizar tudo, tem um sistema de monitoramento de farmácias, e especificamente sobre o armazenamento de remédios na câmara frigorífica. Fala também das imagens, tem várias imagens, acho que tem 22 imagens em 58 páginas, mostrando exatamente como organizar a câmara frigorífica, o que pode, o que não pode.
All right, so I'm staying here on this screen for a second and explain to you what Simon has been doing. Obviously, this is a test, right? So our interpreter is kind of speaking into the tool, And you have all the numbers that have been identified, and they are in blue and they are in bold. So what that helps my brain is not to load my cognitive functions. I have them there. I can remember 22. I can see 22. I can see 58. They are right there highlighted for me. But Simo has also another very neat feature. If I do my due diligence job and I prepare my vocabulary list or terminology list, I can upload the glossary into the Simo, into the tool. And every time the speaker is using one of these terms, it comes up. It highlights it in the original language because the glossary that you add, that you upload is bilingual, obviously, and it highlights the term into the original language, but it also provides you the translation that you provided in your glossary. This is for me specifically useful when it's a dense speech, when it's a fast speech, when I just need to keep track after going on for a certain amount of time.
Aqui traduzindo, na verdade estou
I am
revisando
going to
texto que
try
já
to
foi
move
traduzido.
on.
Eu
All right. Interpreter Bank is another tool that you want to try. Is also readily available in a free version, but I am not going to look at it really, really closely because I am going to go into the next video, and I want you to pay attention because there is a little feedback that I would like from you. You are going to hear something and you're going to maybe see something. And now put your interpreting cap on, and I want to hear from you what you think.
Hi, Mrs. Johnson. This is Karen Roberts from Oakwood Elementary. I'm calling regarding the speech and language evaluation we conducted for Tommy. The speech-language pathologist has completed the assessment, and we'd like to schedule an AAITE meeting to discuss the findings. Dr. Martinez, our special education coordinator, and Ms. Thompson, Tommy's speech therapist, will be present to review the evaluation results and discuss potential support services. We're hoping to meet with you and your husband next week to go over the detailed report and recommendations. The evaluation provides insights into Tommy's current speech development, and we want to collaborate with you to determine the best educational approach. Would you and your husband be available next Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. or Thursday at 4:00 p.m. to meet in the school conference room?
So what did you see on the screen? The floor is yours, so you can unmute and share with me. What did you see?
For me, distracting and disconnect between the words and the mouth and the voice. Like it was all disconnected, and that's distracting.
Perfect. That's one feedback, and that goes to the cognitive load, right, Melissa? Perfect. What else?
Robert, very automatic person. The expressions are not there, just blah, 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 moving the mouth.
Okay. Next.
Sometimes the words are connected together. There is no space between the words, so your mind will get distracted if you read the caption.
What is going next? As you can see, everything that you have brought up is negative. Is there any positive that comes up with a tool like this? Now, to frame a little bit of this, what you just saw, this has been previously prepared. This has been actually prepared with an AI tool, and it's not necessarily there to interpret, but it's there for me to practice. So look at, now that I heard several of the challenges, because these are challenges, the double track, so the visual can be very distracting. And depending on, remember what I said about the generative AI. This is not generative AI, but it does create a sort of disconnect because, like you said, some words go on different lines, right? I have Mrs. and what is the name that comes after, right? But for me, if I have to do consecutive, what is it helping me this for?
It's very helpful. You don't miss anything. If the
Let's
caption is right, like if it's accurate, so you don't miss a word.
so I let's dive in a little bit more. What are the tips that I get by having that type of transcription if I am doing a consecutive interpreting? The name of the
It's on
school,
time
the name of the school. I
and
see
the
it.
time, exact time for the meeting and what is going to be about the subject of the meeting.
Perfect. All what we teach in note taking, for example, we have now a double track. We're listening to it and we visualize it, right? So all of these are really quick for us to put down in notes. For me personally, the name of the school, I may not be familiar with every single name that is in the United States. And sometimes I mishear the name of that school. And then was that elementary or was that middle school, right? What was her title? Um, what are the names of the parents? Who is she addressing? The time that she said, the day maybe. So there is value in the type of tool you use, but remember what we're talking about here is using these tools for preparation. And so obviously, I totally agree with Melissa. It's very distracting, but it's exactly like going on driving the car for the first time. You want to drive a car in a more isolated road. You're not going to go on the highway the first time you drive. What else can be used by this exercise?
My question, or like, I would like to make sure for this option, if we do simultaneous and the caption in front of us, I think it's gonna be helpful if we miss something so we can redo it or rephrase it in a certain way to add it to our interpretation to catch up what we missed, right?
That is a very good comment. And I think what you need to keep in mind is that this is a prepared, pre-prepared video. So the script was there, and I will show you how that was done, and then the captioning follows. If this person was speaking at live, the tool that you would be using to visualize the transcription would be different, and it will flow better with what the speaker says or when the speaker says it. But yes, you are correct.
What other tools we supposed to use?
Let's move on and we'll see.
Thank you.
Giovanna, just
Yes.
really quickly, as far as your comment or your question that you had right before, would something like this be good to use to try to increase your decollage?
Absolutely. So let's look at these different points, right? So first of all, a video like this is being created by me. I have created this tool because I want to get ready for a certain type of area that I am specializing in, right? And then we're going to work on this. How do we do this for our own preparation? This will be the fun exercise that you all are going to work on. Two, I can look at this from several different perspectives. I can look at this from a consecutive or from a simultaneous approach. The the very first disclaimer is we do not disconnect our brain from listening into, right, what the speaker is saying. So the transcription is helping us support our memory and what we may miss rather than relying solely on the transcription. So Luis, yes, you can use it in two ways. You can use it in parroting, for example, as well. And so you can turn the transcription off, use your parroting, something was not clear, you turn it on and see where you can support your improvement, your how you can improve some of the skills. There is a lot of different ways that interpreters are using even the same exercise. So I hope I answered the question.
Yes, thank you.
Any other question before we move forward? All right, so let me move on. And I am going to share one more time. So To go back and really recap on what we can leverage captioning when interpreting, we mentioned that is supporting with visual configuration things that we may miss or may be overloading our brain. Complex terms, numbers, names, titles, etc. It is a support for note taking because once that transcription is gone, if I don't have it on my screen, Zoom may or may not make always sure that your tools are up to date with the recent developments because they issue changes all the time. That can be for me a support for my note taking. It can be a backup if there are audio issues, if the speaker, the connection does not work correctly. That can be for me a good way for to face technical difficulties. But also, it does prompt me if on one side we can work on the decalage, on the other side, when the speaker speaks really fast, we may need a little bit of support to catch up with the speaker's speech pace. But we have also identified some other challenges. There are accuracy issues. So that's where your listening can never disconnect from the transcribed version. We are able to contextualize accents in a way that the AI cannot do. Cognitive loads, some of you have found it is too much for me to look at the two. True, try it and see what you can use of the tools to help you. Inconsistencies, it can happen that when the transcription captures inaccurate renditions, it can create confusion. What do I rely on? Real-time delay, especially when it comes with connection and bandwidth, and also there may be technical difficulties. Again, these are tools that we use for support, but these are tools that we're presenting to you also to use in your preparation. Likewise, we want to recognize that there is an impact on cognitive load, and you have already identified some of these challenges. Whoever has unmuted, would you please mute? Attention splitting. But remember, we already work on different tracks when we interpret. What captioning does for us is that it adds an additional track. So the attention is now divided between listening, reading, watching, seeing, interpreting, etc. The visual cues can be also an additional layer of a distraction, but it also may be useful to process some missed information. The delays and the over-reliance become really a big part of the challenges. But now let's move on to how we can incorporate these and other tools for preparation. Without going really into the nuts and bolts of our preparation, we do know that as interpreters, we need to prepare before, during, and after. The way I want to look at preparation right here is not necessarily to think of tomorrow's assignment, but it's more to think of I am now going to be involved in more and more IPs, disciplinary hearings. How do I make myself more robust in terms of my interpreting skills? And so we know that for the preparation, we want to get all the documents ahead of time. We do internet research. We do prepare our glossary. We talk to the speakers or to the team if we have the opportunity. And then we also want to rely on sound audiovisual technology. Obviously, what I'm telling you incorporates whether we have to be interpreting on site, in person, but also if we are interpreting as it is happening more and more on over the phone or over the video. And so traditionally, what do we focus on to do our research for the assignment? Well, first of all, when we prepare only for one assignment, that can be extremely distracting, very narrowed focused, and it can, in the end, be very superficial. preparing just the list of these terms that we want to that we want to learn, intervention, percentile, acronyms, is not enough, because we need to learn about the topic. And there is a one thing that, well, there is a several things that AI can help us speed up the process, and that is research. So when we look at the cycle of all the steps that we do to prepare, we identify the topics, we need to find resources, we need to read, we need to identify the names, the title, the acronyms of the people that are going to involved. We create glossaries, and then we review and practice the terms. How long does it take you on average to do this all the time? It's a question. I would like to hear from you. Nobody's writing on the chat. Nobody is unmuting.
Maybe a hour?
Maybe what?
Hour?
An hour? Okay, it depends, right?
Yeah.
It depends. Does it also depend on how much time you need?
Sometime,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I phrased that incorrectly. Does that also depend on how much time we have? Right?
Oh,
And
before
so,
the meeting, it will be possible, but during the meeting, no.
exactly, right?
Maybe
So that
5 minutes.
exactly, but that's why I'm trying to position ourselves to prepare to improve our skills rather than for the specific assignment. Because once we learn and we become more expert and knowledgeable of the areas that we cover, then we can dive in much less time. But what can we leverage from all these tools to speed up the process? Um, Melissa, I think it might also depend on the location if interpreting in different settings. Absolutely. Different settings. If we are interpreting more and more over the phone and remotely, it's even different district schools, different states. Counties with the same state have sometimes different terminology. So even though we know what IP means in general, but IPs, the way they're conducted and legally structured in Texas, they're completely different from what it is in Colorado, for example. So give me a couple of ideas of why we would use AI tools in these situations.
It makes it easier for you to do your glossary.
Perfect. So you go to glossary right away. Perfect. But how do you do the glossary? What is the step before doing the glossary?
Looking for what, like, if I'm going for IEP or if the first time or something like this, I have to do glossary search for the acronyms is going to be there, so I can make glossary for all those acronyms or the abbreviations, so I have a list of it. So whenever whatever comes in front of me, I know the meaning, or like first time I have to use the word like the acronym or the abbreviations, and after that's I'm gonna be familiar to it. It's not gonna be hard for me.
Okay, so you said something really, really important there. I'm going to be familiar with the information. What is the information that you're going to be familiar with?
How is the IEP, what they are discussing there, and all those details. So because in the IEP, like if you are going for the first time, you're gonna find a lot of words you don't know, or a lot of expressions or terminologies they are using you are not familiar with. Unless if you have a background about it, otherwise it's gonna be hard for you to know what's going on.
Perfect. How do I build that background?
Read about it, like search, look it up, what the IEP, what they are talking about the IEP, what they are discussing over there, like the setting, how it's gonna be, and like to be
Okay.
familiar with what you are going on,
Mm-hmm.
like because if the first time you're gonna be like lost, so you have to have at least something to back you up, like you have something in your mind before you go.
So my first question was, where do you think is the value of AI tools for our preparation? What do you think they do better than us so that we can leverage what they offer us.
Saving us time.
Time for what? Tell me. I'm looking for a specific task.
For preparation, for creating the glossary, for getting all the information that we need.
They save us time for research.
Yeah, well, yeah, for the preparation.
But that's exactly what I'm looking for. You cannot prepare if you do not research. So research is really the one thing that we start. Everything that you all have said regarding building knowledge, getting familiar, all of this is done through research. So the way now AI helps us, supports us to do that research is really, is much more rapid, is much more effective than what it was before. 5 years ago, I was entering what is an IP on Google, right? And you had a number of different sites. And what did you have to do? You had to go in each one of them and see what was more effective, or was more informative, or what was more even reliable, because there is a lot of information out there that we better not read for our own purposes, right? What happens today? If you go in Google, what happens in Google when you put a question today? Did you notice? Melissa, if you're speaking to me, go ahead.
You put in a question, it filters through AI, and then you get an answer.
You already have the answer at the very top, right? It gives you a first answer, and that's a generative AI. In other words, even our search engines are becoming answer engine, right? So what do you do at that point? You scroll through the answer, and now you understand how to focus. And maybe you're not getting the answer that you were looking for. So what do you do with that question? Now you start changing the question, because now you're trying to focus down, because based on that generative answer, the indication of the sites to visit changes, right? Now, you will see that at the very top, there are links that says sponsored. I usually skip the sponsored because that's all publicity and advertising. That's a paid information that want to be up the top. So I scroll down after the sponsored, and now I start going and diving into in the sites that are proposed to me, so that I can learn based also on the answer that I was given. So as you search today, and remember what I said, search engines, answer engines. Google before was not providing answers. Now it is. But some of these answers for us are not enough to learn about. Having a glossary does not make us good interpreters. It just tells us that we pick sometimes the right word. But if we do not have the vocabulary that is developed around that term, we do not know how to eloquently render the message. And now we go into the first start paying. So you all said that you use at least one tool. Make sure you have it on your screen, because we're going to go into the fun part of our meeting today. I'm going to share my screen again. I unshared because I like to see you. I know that many of you don't have the camera, but whoever does fills my heart, and I don't feel alone. All right. I also want to try to see you. I can see all of you now. I can see my screens, and I can see you as well. Perfect. All right. So in the poll, we asked, who uses ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, Copilot, you name it, okay? Some of you have also put other. If you use tools different from what we have on the screen, can you put it on the chat, please? I would like to know what you use. Marta, it can also help you summarize a certain topic you're researching in a website. Absolutely. We're going to go there in a second. So is what tools you use that is different from the ones that you see on this page? Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you another video, few minutes, and the videos are there just to keep me on time. And let's see what we're learning here. So this is specifically for people that don't use any. With numerous AI-powered platforms available today, we strongly encourage you to start experimenting with them if you haven't already done so. Many platforms offer both free and paid options, though most will require you to create an account regardless of the version that you choose. We're not endorsing any specific platform. Rather, our goal is to highlight the unique features and strength each offers. For this demo, we have selected ChatGPT and Perplexity. We will use the same prompt on each to explore how they handle the task and what insights we can gain from their responses. So I am now going to copy and paste the prompt that we chose, and I am going to ask ChatGPT, I want to remove my grass in my front yard so I can redesign the landscape next year. What do I need to buy to remove the grass? Also give me instructions on how to do it. I have already created my ChatGPT account, and now what I did is to enter the prompt and click enter. And let's see what we have. So as you can see, it starts populating the responses and starts giving me information on what options do I have, the material that I need, and also the method that I can choose to do that. And you can see this is still going. Final tips. I am not going to read it in detail right now because I want to compare. And now I switch to Perplexity. And I have already here as well created my account. And what I do, I am going to copy and paste my prompt. And see what Perplexity tells me. It's quickly populating the answer as well. It goes after a very brief introduction into the material needed and also gives me steps for the method to use to remove the grass. So in a way, and it also gives me conclusion. In a way, it's pretty similar, yet there is a fundamental difference. Which one? What is the difference? What is the difference that you have noticed between ChatGPT and Perplexity?
In ChatGPT, they are not giving you the resources.
Can you tell your name?
Abida.
Abida. Thank you, Abida. Go ahead.
But
Repeat one more time.
in Perplexity, it gives you the resource.
Absolutely. So I am gonna, oh, that's a bad picture of me. Oops. I am going to unshare. And now I'm gonna share my screen on another page. And Abida is perfectly correct. So this is what I used ChatGPT and Perplexity for the video that you saw this morning. I'm gonna share a different screen. And this is how I started. I need to research for an IP meeting regarding a child being tested for speech delay. The parents gave consent for the assessment. The child was tested, and now the school meets with the parents to share findings. Notice that even if I make a spelling, AI will forgive me. And so what ChatGPT does is, what ChatGPT does in this situation, and let's do ChatGPT really quickly as well. Can you see my screen? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So what ChatGPT does, it creates a series of areas to tell me what should I expect, right? It goes even into the legal framework, IDEA, Section 4 Rehabilitation Act, FERPA, and then it gives me one resource that I can click on. With the same prompt, Perplexity goes out and actually provides you all these researches. It already prepares for you some other sites that you can actually go on. And so when I open them, now I am going to start reading and see what is appropriate for my research. I would say that, is this really important for me? You know why this is maybe interesting? Is because I am going to read what some people talk about, but not necessarily for me to learn. So this is not necessarily my first choice. But another thing that it does every time, so I have here 1, 2, and 3, and here I have show all. And a page opens on the side and tells me all the sources the Perplexity has gone through in order to provide the summary of what it's describing to me. And each one of these statements has, I wouldn't say each one, but most of them, has a number. The number refers to the source that it refers to. So I can open this and I can go now research, right? Now, if I have to go back and make the difference between the two, between Perplexity and ChatGPT, and for the sake of time, we're just looking at these two. It's not because I like one more than the other. I absolutely like Claude, and I also want to bring up that if you use Copilot, the free version now has many less features because those features are now only available behind the paid wall. So if you're using Copilot and you have seen some changes, this is exactly the reason. But the point being that I need to know what each tool capabilities are because each one gives me a specific result. And so as you venture in which one you use, make sure you also understand the purpose of your research. So going back to our presentation, what are the differences between the two? Well, let me get you back on the presentation. These are the main differences between the two tools. I have the source citation in ChatGPT in Perplexity, and I actually have the links, so I can click on the link and go right there. ChatGPT does not include direct references to its information sources. As you saw by yourself, it either referenced to an association or gave us only one link. Real-time information. Perplexity accesses and incorporates the latest data from the web, making it more accurate for the current events and up-to-date information. So it does a search based on relevancy, while ChatGPT is only relying on pre-existing information. So if I do a search on something that is any more recent than what ChatGPT has been trained on or put information about, ChatGPT will not have enough to share. Accuracy versus creativity. ChatGPT does does go off a tangent sometimes to be a little bit hallucinating. It may add some creative adjectives or comments or rephrasing that does not stick with the facts. Perplexity instead focuses on delivering precise, fact-based responses, while ChatGPT generates more creative and contextually rich answers. So you have to be really careful when you question ChatGPT on the type of answers that it gives you. Conversational ability, ChatGPT is designed for more an engaging, dynamic conversation. So you can tell, readdress this, refine this, make this in a more polite. One thing that I like a lot about ChatGPT, I do like to play with different registers. Tell me this in a more formal way. Tell me this in a more casual way, in a more colloquial way. What are the slangs? What are the formal alternatives for these terms? That I find ChatGPT to be very useful, and it helps me as a non-English native speaker to understand the different levels of formality of the language. I have also tried with Italian, and to some extent, I have been pleased. And the depth of information goes back to the source citation. Perplexity often provides more comprehensive answers. As you have seen from the example that we just provided, it gave me at least 11 sources to link to and do my own research. And that goes back to us becoming familiar. If you put that prompt in and you say in Colorado, in Texas, in California, it will provide specific facts-based references according to what you are asking. A quick note on data protection. Please, no matter what tool you are using, you need to be careful with what you put into the engine and where that information goes. In other words, if you use free versions, chances are there is no privacy boundaries that are very strong. But if you use the paid wall, you need to look into the settings as to how the information that you input is used, what you give consent to, and what you don't. So review policies, minimize personal data, enhance security, stay informed, and exercise control. These become your one obligation and two liability. So personally, I never put names of people. If I write a letter, if I cite an author, I never put a company, for example, I never put the name. So this is a very quick feature comparisons. Data usage, user control, and security are handled differently from by the different chat box. So again, look them up. And these are not even something that you can rely on from 2 months from now, because they're making so many adjustments to their versions so that these can change very quickly. So be very sensitive to notifications that you use. But moving forward, what can we use the AI chat box for? The research, as we just said, and the more narrow-minded, narrow-focused the prompt is, the more detailed information we get from tools like Perplexity. As someone already said, we can ask them to summarize the content, and you can also now know what the limitations are. I cannot ask ChatGPT to summarize the content of something that is not in its database, but I can do it with Perplexity. But I can also tell them, out of this page, create a list of key terms, and then say, organize these terms in a bilingual glossary to create a glossary for me with definitions. And then I also can use it to create simulation practice materials. We're not going to go into the project management aspect of this chat box just for the sake of time. And so a useful um, add-on to this conversation is to understand how to create prompts to get whatever you need, to be more specific. And one of the examples that I would like to copy from one of our colleagues that presented at ATA was, it's a little bit like having a new person in the office. If that person is there and you just tell them, go get me a book, they will not know what book to get you from their shelf or where the book is. And the more refined information you provide, the better result you can get. And so understanding that there is different ways to prompt the chat box will help you narrow down how to get the results that you need. And I know that Caroline will go more into prompts later on this morning. The tip for effective prompts are the following. Be specific and clear. Do not grieve a general questions, but dive into small little questions. As you can see from what I said before, I said exactly the context. This is what has been done. This is what is being agreed upon, and this is what I would like to know. So request key point or summarize if you're fetching information from a specific source, and request the exact specific information that you want the chat box to analyze from you, for you, whether it's a summary, whether it's a bullet points of key points, etc. Bad prompts? Tell me about the history of the internet. Well, it can tell you anything and everything, but in this telling anything and everything, it does lack a lot of details. But if I want to know specifically what happens, then my better prompt would be, tell me what the key milestones in the development of the World Wide Web are between 1989 and 1995. Now I focus down. That is applicable to every single prompt that we want to give us ourselves. And so now I have an exercise for you that we hopefully can do for the next 10 minutes. And I think that we can all relate to this type of preparation. We are scheduled to interpret for IP meetings. In this specific one, it is for a child that is being tested for speech delay. If you have attended one of our last Edu talks, we talked about speech pathology as one not enough addressed topics. We know that the parents give consent for the assessment, and now the school meets with the parents to share the findings. And what I'm wrestling with is I have done tons of IPs. I have been exposed to a lot of different areas. The speech delay is a little bit new to us. I don't have much experience with it. So I do not really know what to expect. And I need to do some research. And so in my research, this is what I want you to do. I want you to log on onto your AI tool of preference. Again, they're called chatbox. And I want you to prompt exactly this and find what you can, how you can build your knowledge. There are 5 steps to this exercise. So I'm going to go on and give you them all, and then I put them on the chat for you. I want you to first research. I want you to assess what websites, what areas, what links, what associations, what pages can be relevant for my preparation. And then I want to ask the chat box to generate a glossary for me based on the research that I have done. So remember the specificity. You have to be specific to get the results that you want. One thing that is important for you to do your due diligence is to understand the key term and the definition. The fact that the chat box gives you the list of terms does not tell you whether or not the chat box is hallucinating. You need to add the due diligence of your specialty and expertise. Then you're also going to ask them, oh, I want this now translated in the 30 terms. And I usually also ask, I don't know if we can do it for sake of time, what are the definitions for the translations that you provide? Why? Because I want to compare the definition of the Italian term, if that definition is equivalent to the definition on the original term. Because remember that in interpreting, we don't look for casa, house. What if that casa is home? I don't know. But how do you make that difference if you do not know what is defining? Lastly, ask to generate a dialogue between the speech pathologist and the parents receiving the result. Why? Because that's what you can use to create an audio and interpret. I am going to stop sharing, and we're going to see if we can do that in the next not long time. And I'm going to put all of this in the chat for you. Oops. If you want to use Perplexity, it's a very simple 1-minute way to do it. Go to perplexity.ai and register. And you have about 10 minutes to do as much as you can.
Teacher, it takes 10 minutes to make an account for one of them.
It takes 1 minute
Because
to make
we
an
don't
account.
have any account on that.
Oh, you can use anyone. You can use anyone you want.
Oh, I start from ChatGPT.
Oh, that's fine. Then use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just
You
it
can
take a
use
little bit time to.
you can use anyone you already have.
Thank you.
All right, we're back. So, who can volunteer how that worked out for you?
I
Nobody
can
did it?
share.
Please, thank you, Mary. Oh, who said I can share? Mary, and then
Mari.
Mari, and then Teresa also. So Mari, go first, and then we hear from Teresa.
Sure. Well, I started with your prompting, but I decided to also add that the child was bilingual, and the testing was done both in English and Spanish. And at the beginning,
What tool did you use? What tool did you use?
ChatGPT.
Okay.
Because I have it in my phone already installed, so that was easier. So I started writing the prompting first, and then I add the please generate the 30 words, glossary, etc. And of course, it went really bad. It gave me created me a glossary of technology terminology that doesn't have anything to do with.
Mari, what do you think went wrong in that?
I think I had to. There has to be a continuity of the prompting.
Prompts.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what I did in my second prompt writing the prompt, and I got what I needed. I got 30 terms, IP, speech delay, bilingual, etc. Then after that I asked ChatGPT to translate the glossary. It did it perfectly. I review all the terms, and they were there was a coherence between them. And then I asked, now please create a dialogue between the speech pathologist and the parent receiving the results, and created a whole dialogue for me. So I think it was smooth and perfect, except at the beginning that I made the mistake of doing separate prompts for that.
Did you learn something new? Did you did something new that you did not do before with the use of ChatGPT?
I've been using ChatGPT a lot for creating scenarios for IPs. Actually, we went through a hiring process recently, and I was asked to create a IP meeting scenario for the interview process, and it was really interesting. But now, I mean, I don't know why I went, and maybe because I was trying to do it fast.
No, but my question is,
Yes.
did you do something new that you learned today in the exercises that you did?
The only thing that I learned to do, and I haven't done it differently before, was created the glossary first in English and then requested to translated it. Because what I've been doing before is just create a bilingual glossary for me in just one prompting, in a table format, for example, and I get the whole
with
table
or without definitions?
With.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now let me hear from Teresa.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mari.
Hello. So I used Gemini. And so at first I put in the prompt and I told it the languages are English and Spanish. And then I asked it to generate a 30-word glossary of the terms. So what I got are terms like IEP, assessment and evaluation, speech delay, receptive language. And then I asked it to give me the definitions of the 30 terms into Spanish. So it gave me a 2-column thing with the words and then in Spanish and the definition in so it translated the plan de educación individualizado and then the definition of it. So then I asked it to generate the dialogue, and it gave me a dialogue with the speech pathologist and the parent, and that was very basic, but it's kind of like how it is. And then I asked it to Gemini gives you at the end, at the bottom, it gives you important notes. So it told me to adjust the language, use clear and simple language, avoid jargon as much as possible, be patient and empathetic. So it kind of gives you advice, I guess. And then it said, then I asked it to give me more terminology that refers to speech therapy. So it gave me words like articulation, phonology, fluency, voice, or whatever. And then I asked it to rewrite those in Spanish. So then I got in those words, articulación, fonología, fluidez. So yeah, it worked.
So Rosa, I'm gonna give you the floor for a minute and then I am gonna wrap it up with some examples.
Hi, I am. This is my first time using Perplexity, so I asked the question, and I since I don't have any experience, I just got instead of the 30 words for the glossary, I just got 14, and
yes.
And then I got the translation and the dialogue. Yeah, I think it was for me a good example to know how we should evaluate everything that we get from the tool, because in this case, for example, I think one of the words that should be in the glossary is deaf or deafness, because that could be a reason for getting a speech therapy, and it wasn't there. So I don't know if maybe I should look for the other 15 or 16 words for the glossary to see if is it in there, or it's just something that I don't know, I should research more. I was also trying to check one of the the sites that Perplexity suggested, but they were like very specific in very specific cases that for me was not the right thing related with the question. So it was maybe more in depth for, and that's when I think we need to make sure that what is the reason we are looking for this tool and what is the information that we want to get from that tool. But in general, it was for me a very good experience. I didn't have too much time to review the dialogue, but it seems to me that it's at a glance, it was something good.
So thank you so much, Rosa, for all your comments. And I'm going to take from some of what you have commented on and what Mari and Teresa said. So I want to point out a couple of words to help me wrap up the morning. One is experimenting. The AI tools to support interpreting and translation services are not a magic formula where you get all what you wish for. Like anything in life, you have to one, use them, two, understand the purpose, three, play with them. The formal word for play with them is experiment. So as exactly like you said, Anna, we need to learn how to craft our prompts. Otherwise, we're going to get either too focused, too narrow, too general, not important. And so I am going to give you an example of what I did while you were working on your own. And I actually used the ChatGPT because I wanted to try the tool that Abida was trying to use and see how I could manipulate the capabilities of ChatGPT to give me what I needed and show how I could save time by doing that route. I may have used other forms of research between Claude, between Perplexity. I never stop at one tool because we as interpreters do not stop with one dictionary. We do not stop with one technique. We do not stop with one strategy. So we need to understand what is the toolbox that we have to do the specific and appropriate thing at a time. But it starts with validating the research and increasing our learning, or the AI is as good as what we did before we got started. And so I'm going to share my screen one more time. And again, what I did while you were working on your exercise, I used the chat GPT and see what I did. And then you can kind of making a difference with what you would have done or what you did in your own space. So what we have learned from today, do you see my chat GPT? Please respond.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Like I said, I have several screens, so I do not know if I got things right sometimes. Remembering, let's remember that ChatGPT only makes this research that is related to what is in its database. It's not a real fact check driven engine. It's not an engine actually. So I put exactly the same prompt that you had. I need to research for an IP meeting regarding a child being tested for speech delay. The parents give consent for the assessment. The child was tested, and now the school meets with the parents to share the finding. So it gave me all this information, prepare question for the meeting, legal framework, resource for parents, and then only one. Then I did something else. Can you give me a list of resources where I can learn more of what I should expect when results for speech delay testing are given within an IP context? So I recrafted my prompt because I wanted to know if ChatGPT was going to give me resources. And it did. But look at what it did. Pursuit of research dealing with IPs for speech impaired child. And I say read more. So it does give me a resource, and it's right here. And this is from a journal, from a research-based research. So for me, this is a good thing to read and to learn on how the speech delay testing is incorporated into an IEP. Go back to, and I read more. 10 questions every parent should ask about an IEP meeting. That's not what I want. I know about IEPs. I need to know more about speech language, speech pathology. As you can see, every other resource, and it gives me about 10 resources, they are all more general. They're all more general, and it didn't make me very happy. So can you give me a list of resources where I can learn more about the children's speech delay that can be an obstacle for their learning, educational learning? Why? Because the speech delay in an IEP is only when that delay causes a problem from a learning process perspective. So I recrafted it. At this point, look at what it does. It gives me sources and it gives me articles. But look what happens. Here is a link. Here is a link. Here is a link. When it gets to the ASHA, that is the American Speech Language Hearing Association, it does not give me a link. That does not take me anywhere. It's just highlighted. So I went down there and I said, okay, what is the URL for the ASHA resource? And it gave it to me. But then I did find in one of these resources, read the article, access the article, because I opened them all. I did find one that was interesting to me. It was this one. And so I opened it up and here it is. And I scroll it down and I say, okay, it does give me some disorders here and it tells me when they happen, etc. So it's good for me to learn. I go back to ChatGPT after I explore each one of them and see what I can really use. And now I ask, can you provide a summary of, and I put the URL of the article that I want to have at glance after I read it. And I also ask them a glossary of key terms with the definition. So it does give me a little blur. For me, it's too short compared to what I need. But again, I only had 10 minutes or less to do that. And it gives me a glossary of key terms. That's cool. I was not happy. Can you organize the terms and definition in Excel table? And it did. And I can download the file. If I download it here, sorry, I already downloaded. I should have not done that. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Okay, I'm back here. So it doesn't allow you to download it more than once. I did download it, and then I thought, oh, shoot, I should have asked for also my other language, right? And I did it I've organized the terms and definition in Excel table, blah, blah, blah. Can you add a column and translation in Italian? And so it gives me another one, and it's right here. And so what do? I go into my glossary, and what do I notice? I notice that actually this is a pretty close translation of this. The fact that it is a translation does not help me because it does not tell me if this is really what it means in Italian. So I have started playing with either translation or equivalent. And sometimes when I say equivalent, it gives me different results. Why do I point this out to you? Because I am going to give you the example of a word that I know for sure is different in English and in Italian. And that's magistrate. I'm telling ChatGPT to give me the definition for magistrate and also the translation in Italian with its definition. And it does. And I'm asking, where did you get the definition of the Italian term? The Italian definition I provided was crafted based on the English definition. That's a translation of the definition. It does not tell me what magistrato does in Italian. And so I said, can you please give me, it says here, can I, if you'd like a defined source from authoritative English legal dictionary or website, I can look that up for you. Would you like me to do so? Yes. Now I get a completely different definition than the definition that was given here, because it is not true that in Italian, the magistrato only presides small misdemeanors. It is not true. They are actually leading very high profile felony investigations and criminal investigations. And so this is why I say we need to develop our own competence, because if not, it looks good to us. That translation looks great. I use that translation to actually enrich my vocabulary, but it does not tell us that that term in English has that specific equivalency. It's just a literal translation. Now, I provided you this in what, 10 minutes, just to invite you to the following. One, do not disregard or dismiss technology. AI tools are there to provide us support. But if, like in anything, if you do not develop literacy around what the AI tools are, what they can be used for, we are just going to have a limited approach and push back or acceptance for what we can understand in our limited focus. Two, every tool has a purpose. If I want to sew something, I have one needle for one type of fabric and I have another needle for a different type of fabric. It's the same tool for our toolbox. That's why we say that we have a toolbox. Three, just pushing back, finding all the problems of what a tool may have only talks to our limitations. So let's look at what the tool offers first of all. Let's learn how and if we can use that tool or other tools. And that's why we presented a variety and the ability to play with it. So Abida, you said it doesn't provide tool sources. I just showed how I get stubborn and I'm like, no, I want to see what is the extent that I can push this tool to see if it is the right tool to do the right thing. Perplexity would have made my job much easier. But remember, those of you that said, oh, the translation was great. Yeah, the translation was great, but was that the right term? And that's where our competence comes in. And now my point is to find a lot of educational terms where AI fails because it provides a translation, but not an equivalent, which is very different when we interpret. And with this, I know that we are in 13 minutes over. We are now in our break time. Caroline is going to start in about 17 minutes. You are free to take a break or to ask me more questions. I'll be here until Caroline starts, but I think we can now stop the recording. And thank you so very much. And I hope that this was useful to learn some different perspectives.